You're listening to Stand Tall and Own It, the podcast for high-performing female leaders who are ready to make an impact by discovering the safety that comes from understanding their own value and exercising their own authority. I'm your host, Andrea Johnson, and I'm here to tell you it is time to just truly be you, my strong friend. It's time to stand tall and own it. Hey there, welcome to another episode of Stand Tall and Own It. I'm your host, Andrea Johnson, the Intentional Optimist. And in my last episode, I kind of shared my why with you, why I do what I do. As a transformational leadership coach, I do the work I do because the world needs more curious, welcoming, and wise leaders. Leaders who understand their core values, recognize their strengths, and live by a clear set of life principles. This foundation that those things build in you enables you to lead with integrity, humility, and authority, all while mentoring the next generation. And when leaders truly know who they are, they stop imitating others and they start defining their own principles and priorities, creating a path for what we call sustainable, impactful leadership. And as we embody our unique values, we inspire and empower others to do the same, fostering diversity and authentic leadership across generations and across demographics. Now, I am beginning another 4-part series for you, and this one is on leadership. That's what I am, a transformational leadership coach. And right now, I'm in what I call the Live to Lead season. This is between October 1 of 2024 and February 28th of 2025. So as part of this series, I'm kind of ramping you up for it. But I have access, and therefore you have access to a premier leadership tool that will inspire, encourage, and challenge you to be a better leader. Now, if you're local to Central Virginia, especially the greater Charlottesville area, you can take part in a full-day live in-person Live to Lead conference in Charlottesville on Friday, October 18th. But keep an eye on my socials and my website because we're looking at potentially having up to 2 more in-person live events in the Central Virginia area, maybe heading north or maybe heading a little south, all happening before the end of February. And if we have any of those confirmed, we'll put them in the show notes. The link to the Live to Lead Charlottesville is also in the show notes, so please check it out. Now, if you're not local or you will not be able to attend in person because it might be fall break and you're traveling, you can still get access to these amazing leaders' content through what we call Leader Pass. It's a 5-day virtual pass on-demand access to Live to Lead 2024, featuring the speakers that you'll hear at Live to Lead Charlottesville, like John Maxwell, Malcolm Gladwell, John Gordon, Shantae Lowe, Valerie Burton, and a local speaker as well. But it also includes access to Michael Jr., Chris Robinson, and Brandon Dawson. Now, the other thing you get with Leader Pass is you get access to some past speakers like Marcus Buckingham, Ryan Leake, Ed Milet, and Tim Elmore, who I mentioned in my last episode entitled Leading Across Generations. I've included that link in the show notes as well, and it is such an amazing value. Trust me, you do not want to miss out on this one. So this 4-part series, what's it going to be about? Well, we're going to hone in right into the basics and the foundations of what leadership is and why we do it. And so they're going to include, so today we're going to talk about understanding your role as a leader. The next episode is going to be about communication. I think it's kind of the number one responsibility of a leader. The 3rd episode that we're doing in this series is all about setting your team and yourself up to succeed. And then the 4th one is all about legacy. What are you building? What are you leaving behind? And having some kind of intentional growth plan. And all 4 of these lead right up to the October 18th in-person Charlottesville Live to Lead event that I would love for you to attend if you are local. Now, I'm going to be unashamedly pulling from my mentor, John C. Maxwell's book for this series, and it's entitled, this is like 100% of my people walk through this book, It's titled Developing the Leader Within You 2.0, and it's the workbook edition, right? If you go to look at it, it should have spaces for you to fill things in. The reason I do the workbook edition, or I like that the best, is because it gives you the opportunity to immediately apply the information. How many times do you just read a book and you highlight and you might make notes, but you just read it and then it goes back on the shelf? This one, allows you to read the entire book because everything from the actual book is in here, but then it allows you to apply it immediately. Now, this is a book that I walk through with every single one of my executive leadership coaching clients. 100%. None of them get a pass. It is just like one of the things that we walk through. The only reason I wouldn't walk through this with one of my clients is if they had already gone through it. So I have also linked this, right now it's, as of the recording of this, this book is on sale on Amazon for 40% off at like $13.99, and I've put a link for you in the show notes. But what we're going to do over these next 4 episodes is we're walking through the basics of what it means to be a leader. And so I'll be covering a few of the principles from this workbook in each of these episodes, but I will actually also help you see how they relate to core values and intentional optimism. This is all part and parcel. It's all like a big, not quite a Venn diagram. Maybe leadership is in the middle and all these things go together. But we're going to start today with your role as a leader. Let's dive in. The first thing we're going to talk about is the definition of leadership. John Maxwell says that leadership is influence, pure and simple. So I have had that definition of leadership for quite a while. He also quotes a gentleman named James C. George, who says, leadership is the ability to obtain followers. And if you think about that, that could be positive or negative. And so that's why I especially talk about being intentional in how we lead and how we become leaders, because I don't want people to follow me for the wrong reason. I don't want to lead people down a road that is not a good road to follow. So you can be a good leader or you can be a bad leader. And we're all about making people impactful, sustainable leaders that actually change tomorrow, right? By taking action today. So to remember that it's influence and that anybody can be a leader and everybody is, you have to think about the fact that everybody influences someone. I tell this to parents all the time. I tell this to my son all the time. We don't know who or how much we influence others, but it's just a really good reminder that somebody's always watching. If you're a parent, if you're a boss, somebody's always watching you. And the earliest and most simple way we learn is by imitating others. So how are we influencing those around us? That's a good question. Now, the best investment in tomorrow and in yourself is to intentionally develop your influence today. Like I said, good leaders and impactful leaders are those who make a difference tomorrow by taking action today. Now, John Maxwell famously has 5 levels of leadership. You can actually go through different programs with the Maxwell team that include these 5 levels of leadership. This is included in, probably 50% of his books. But those 5 levels of leadership are important to understand when we're talking about your role. And the first, there's 5. The first one is positional. And this is where people follow you because they have to. I have learned not to say because I said so to my son. He is almost 16 and he's learning to understand the conversation and the implications and the circumstances and even the I don't want to say coincidences. What is the word I'm looking for? The consequences. The consequences of his actions. And so I'm learning as a parent to say, I love you. And as a parent, I said at 3 years old, don't row out in the street. But at 15 or 16, you have to talk differently. It can't just be positional leadership. That's very authoritarian. I also learned this in my work situation. And when I was my very first supervisor, I actually said to somebody, well, because I'm your boss. That did not go over well. And I did not understand the levels of leadership at that time, and I had not developed myself as a leader. So think about as you listen to these, think about where you fall on this scale. And it may be that at home, you're in one type of leadership role. At work, you're in a different type of leadership role. In the community, you may even be on a different level. It just depends. But the goal is to move up through all of these in every area of our lives, okay? The first one is permission, and they follow because they have to. The second level of leadership the first is position. The second is permission, and people follow because they want to. This is the kind of leadership that you get when people kind of find the situation appealing to them. It might be in their best interest. They might like you. They enjoy being around you. This is a lot of charismatic leaders get this, and it's not as strong a position of leadership as people think. It's not a level that goes as high as people think it does, because they might get a lot of followers because people like being around them and people have given them permission to lead them. And quite frankly, right now, or one of the things I've learned about myself is that I gave permission to people to lead me when I really shouldn't have, right? So this particular level does not evidence a lot of thoughtfulness, and it doesn't evidence on either side, and it doesn't evidence a lot of relationship building. It just means that people follow because they want to. There are times when it's extremely helpful to get this done, or to get things done, to have at least this level 2 level of leadership in your tool belt. The third level is what we call production. And this is where people follow you because of what you've done for the organization. We see this all the time in new management. Maybe someone was the best salesperson, and so they got promoted into a supervisory position. I saw this in university systems all the time because they just didn't have... I've yet to work, and I've only worked in 3, well, actually I've worked in 4 university systems, and I have yet to see a university system that promotes people based on their skill set and their strengths rather than their production. This is just how university systems tend to work. If you work in a university system that does it differently, please let me know. I would love to be encouraged. But I saw this for I worked in 4 different school systems, and I saw this probably for 28 years. And everything from undergrad to medical schools to graduate seminary work, I mean, I've seen a lot of it. And when you think back on my career beforehand, it's like interesting that I spent so much of it in education. But people follow because of what you've done for the organization means that person is a really good salesperson, or this person was really good at administrative work, and I'm going to follow them because I want to be on their coattails. I want to be a part of what they're doing in the organization. It's not a bad level to be. It's kind of the midway point, and it's better than just permission, and it's way better than just position. But it's not, there's still not a lot of thought. It's still kind of, people are saying, what's in it for me? And the leader is still kind of saying, what's in it for me? So production is the third level, and it's just because people follow you because of what you've done in the organization. The fourth level, these are the last couple levels here, are the ones that I aspire to, pardon me, and they're the ones that I love the most. This fourth one is the one I gravitate to, and I've shared many, many stories about it, but this fourth one is called people development, and this is people follow you because of what you've done for them, right? So we go from doing things for the organization to what you've done for the individuals. And I have told the story over and over. I don't know how many times I've said it on this podcast, but at least in my interviews, if you've listened to any of those, I used to tell people as a hiring manager, especially for administrative assistant work, this is a launch pad for you. This is not a landing pad. I want you to come in here, learn the ropes, get to know the organization, learn all the skills that you need, figure out your strengths and weaknesses, grow, and move on. And most people found that extremely exhilarating. I did have one employee that consistently felt like I was trying to get them fired. When are you going to move on? And they're like, are you trying to get rid of me? And I'm like, no, I just want you to grow. So it doesn't always work. But the people development level of leadership is a more servant-oriented. It's more others-focused rather than self-focused. It is the level of leadership where you finally reach that area where you realize it doesn't have to be all about me. It's okay for the people that I train to go above me. And when you recognize that in yourself, I think that's something that's really good to understand. And if you know that you don't have that yet, then that's something to aspire to. One of the reasons I left the university system is because I was extremely frustrated and had a conversation with the COO of my department that the staff salaries and the way employees were looked at in this system was that on the spreadsheet or the balance sheet, the accounting balance sheet, they fell into the expense category. And I kept saying, until you move them into and that's liability, right? So until you move them into the asset category that appreciates rather than depreciates, until you move them over there, you are never going to have the staff that you want. You are never going to have the loyalty that you want, and you are never going to have the production or the efficiency that you want, because people are always afraid that their jobs are expendable. And I get it. A COO or a CFO, that's who it was, the CFO, they're money crunchers. That's what they do. I understand why organizations put employees there. I think it's a bad paradigm, and I think we should switch it, because as soon as you start looking at how you can develop your people, they are not going to leave you. They're only going to leave you to go someplace bigger, and they're going to take all of that amazing goodwill and memories with them and take it to the next organization. And that way you're going to have this impact on more than just you and your people. Now, the fifth level of leadership is called Pinnacle. And this is where people follow because they follow you because of who you are and what you represent. And I think that there are ways in which most of us have this level of leadership in certain areas of our lives. I think that you follow me here in that level of leadership because of who I am and what I represent. I don't know that you follow me. I mean, I'm sort of invested in you, but I may or may not know you personally. I'm invested in your goodwill, and I love developing people, but I'm not invested personally in your development other than me giving you things. So what I'm here doing is this type of work is sort of in that pinnacle level because of what I do and what I represent. But when you go into your work situation or your family situation, do others follow you because of who you are and what you represent? I am sad to say, I don't think they did in my work in the universities. I was so frustrated, and I had lots of production and I had lots of people development, but I never reached this pinnacle level. And I don't even know that I'm truly at a pinnacle level now. I know that there are people, for instance, like I said, I had the Live to Lead conference coming up on the 18th. I had my first one back in January, and a former colleague came, and when we had people stand up to talk about things and tell why they were here, they stood up and they said, "I'm here because I believe in you and because I love you and I trust you." And I was very humbled, but that tells me that at least I'm touching on this pinnacle piece in certain areas. I don't know that I'm touching on that piece in other areas, maybe at church, but definitely not in the community yet. Definitely not. I have a volunteer team that works with me, so I think they follow because of what I do, but I don't know that I inspire people quite to that level. That is my goal, and I wish that for you as well. So all of this work that we're talking about in leadership is to get you to that level. The goal is to say, why do I want to be a leader, and where do I fall on this scale? Am I at positional, permission, production, people development, or pinnacle? And when you are willing to walk through that and say, how do I get to the next level? If I'm at positional, how do I get to the next one? How do I get to level 3 or level 4 and work yourself up through there? That's how you understand leadership. This piece I am going to kind of walk through a little bit in all 4 of these episodes to just remind us of what we do as leaders and why we're there. But now I'm going to get into your role as a leader. The first aspect of your role as a leader is to understand that the key to all of leadership is understanding priorities. And I like to equate this with capacity and maybe even time capacity. You automatically, as a leader, have more on your plate. So how are you going to prioritize things? As a leader in my last position, I had staff come to me saying, how do I prioritize these things? And so as a leader, you might need to help other people prioritize. There are principles that you can tap into to help you figure them out. But some general ideas are things like you're going to get a bigger return from working smarter than harder. And this is not something that you haven't heard before. Work smarter, not harder. And part of working smarter is understanding things like the Pareto principle, where it's 80% of your work or 80% of your value and your output comes from 20% of your work. And understanding what those 20% kind of options are. It's the same with your staff. 20% of your staff do 80% of the work. It's the same in a church. 20% of your people give 80% of the money. It's a principle that goes across all kinds of platforms and all kinds of demographics and all kinds of ideas. But when you understand that you can work smarter by letting go of things, by delegating, by setting up priorities, this is why you want to set up some priorities, then you can actually move you as a leader up those levels and move your organization better. But understanding your capacity means understanding all your resources. You have to be willing to focus in on what you have in order to prioritize. I'm a perfect example of this right now. I just said I'm in live to lead season. I literally had to kind of put, as my friend says, everything else on the dock so that my boat will go faster in order to do the live to lead season. I had to actually stop doing a lot of interviews. I had to say, this is going to be my focus. And I think that gets a bum rap sometimes. It doesn't mean to just like focus reading for 30 minutes. It means, what is my priority for the day? What am I building? Where am I going? What's the big picture? And how can I build on that with the small picture and the things that I do daily? So understanding your own capacity, that might be your energy levels. It might be the time that you have in a day because of all the different responsibilities you may have. It means that you're also looking at your emotional capacity and your mental capacity. If you need to grow a skill in order to have more, that's a piece that you need to do. But another aspect of understanding the principles for prioritizing is and this is going to sound weird to you when I first say it, but good is always the enemy of best. Normally we hear that presented the opposite way, especially in the online community, especially for digital creators. A lot of people say that it's good is good enough, best is the enemy of good, and it's a way to combat perfectionism. But let me tell you a quick story that John shares in the book, and it's about a lighthouse keeper who once a month, this is back when they had oil in the lighthouse, right? Once a month, he got an oil ration for the light, and it was enough to do the whole month. And this is like on a rocky cliff, so he needs to make sure that the ships don't come in too close to the shore. They need to know where the lighthouse is. And throughout the month, one particular month, he lived in a small village, and an old woman came to him needing a little bit of oil for her lamp. And then somebody else came to him needing a little oil for something else. And I don't know exactly how many, but he was kind-hearted, and so he just gave oil away. Well, when it came to the end of the month, it was the light started going dimmer, and he realized he didn't have any oil left. And before the end of the month, like the last day or two, the light went out. And consequently, a ship wrecked onto the rocks where this lighthouse was, and people died. And when they did the investigation, they realized, oh my goodness, you had one purpose. You had the oil was meant for one thing. The energy was meant for one thing, and you gave it away and you didn't do the important thing. So we need to look at our own energy capacities. And if you come to Live to Lead, or if you buy a leader pass, you're going to hear Valerie Burton talk about this. Oh my gosh, it will rock your world. Understanding what your own energy capacity is. I just got cold chills telling you that. Really makes a difference. And being able to say, this is how much I have. I would love to be able to do all of that, but I'm going to do this. And I'm going to focus on this because this is where my greatest return is going to come. Now, as far as intentional optimism is concerned, this plays right into the tenet of optimistic and being proactive. And that particular, that aspect of optimistic says preparation makes the journey easier. I'm willing to walk into any situation with my eyes wide open. When you are prepared, when you are proactive, when you say, as I did, I'm going to have to clear my schedule for the next 3 months because I really need to focus on this. It is amazing how you can find ways to actually focus on the project that you need. And I did have a friend counsel me, and I went there for a little while, and I've discovered that I didn't need it, but she counseled, maybe don't make your schedule too loose because then you might like fill it with other things, or you might get paralyzed. But I have found that I actually cleared some more. So I did a little bit at a time to figure out what worked for me. And you might need to figure out what it is that you need to focus on as a leader. What are the priorities that you need to pay attention to? And good questions to ask are things like, how are you naturally wired? Are you a natural planner or no? Because if you're not a natural planner, that's going to feel really odd. If you are, it's probably going to settle your system. You might also look at what areas that you find you don't have enough time already. Do you feel overwhelmed or, like, as I say, on your heels rather than on your toes? These are areas that could probably use some specific priorities. You may not need to do it in all of your life, but specifically if you look at areas where you know where you already feel overwhelmed and you need some kind of streamlining, this is a good place to start. And then just ask yourself, what do I need to do there? Do I need to run things through a core values filter? It may be that you have to look at what's most important and let some other things go, like me, or delegate. And I'm learning to do that as well. And as a solopreneur, that's a little bit more difficult. But that first aspect of truly understanding your role is understanding that the key to leadership is understanding priorities. And the second aspect we're going to look at as today regarding the role that you play as a leader is the foundation of you as a leader. And the foundation of leadership is always character. Leading yourself is often the most difficult task you will face each day. We went through some rough stuff last week. Just some, kids at school can be mean. And my son, actually, I think as parents, we were much more concerned about this than he was. We had several conversations with administration, and my son just kind of was like bouncing around going, I'm cool. It's good. And I talked to my mentor about it because it could have developed into a very serious situation. And when we think about bullying and that kind of thing at school, it could be very difficult. And she said, Andrea, Nate's doing a really good job leading himself. You need to let your son do that and take your cues from him. I wasn't doing as good a job leading myself as he was leading himself, and understanding that is very important. Good or solid character builds trust like nothing else. If your people learn to trust you, you'll get their attention. But if you initiate trust in your people, you'll get their action. I love that phrase. I failed to do this when I first took over a specific job in the School of Medicine, and I did not automatically trust my people. I automatically assumed, because I listened to other people, that they were not going to do their jobs, or that they were trying to game the system, or that, time cards, or if they were, not paying attention or something. I just didn't trust them. I found out later, after a woman actually resigned and we had had multiple conflicts, I realized I should have sat down with her to find out what she did. And I said, I blew this, didn't I? And she said, yeah, you really did. I said, this was on me. Now, she was retirement age and ready to retire, but it didn't have to be cantankerous like it was. I should have sat down with her in the beginning and trusted her and said, tell me what you do, because it's different from every other administrative assistant that I work with. And if I had done that, she might have trusted me, and then we could have had a much better relationship. It's just like when I talk about core values. When you have a true core value, it's reciprocal. You want it for the other person as much as you want it for yourself. We need, as leaders, to see trust that way. We need to see character that way. We have to initiate it first. It has to be reciprocal. Can't just have them only trust me and not trust them. You have to go first. Now, if leadership is influence, and you want to influence people to accomplish things or make changes, you need to have action and results. Maxwell says the essence of successful leadership is getting things done. And I can't tell you how many times I get frustrated when things are measured by what is the result. And I'm like, but the growth was this. Then but what is the result? But that's just the way we measure success. So if you want to have good, solid character helping people get action, then you have to trust them first. The intentional optimism tenet of courage speaks here. One piece of that is the aspect of resilient. I almost said this word about my son a minute ago, but resilient says solid character means that I do what I say I will do, consistently doing the small or hard things, knowing that keeping my eye focused on the prize will yield the desired results for me and anybody else. And I love that, because resiliency doesn't just mean getting up 9 times after being knocked down 8. It means learning. It means understanding. It means doing what you say you'll do. If it's I'm going to get up 9 times after being knocked down 8, or if it's I'm going to follow through with this piece, if it's I'm going to promote you, or I am going to show up at this time at this place. That's what resiliency shows people, is that I'm resilient. I can do what I say I'm going to do. And that's what solid character is. Because, my friend, you cannot lead other people if you're not willing to do the work yourself. And by that work, I don't mean I don't mean doing like the reading work, and I don't mean doing like a lot of people say, a good leader will clean the bathrooms. They don't have any distinction between the leader and the staff. That's not what I mean. I mean doing the internal work. There are 4 dimensions of what we mean when we talk about character. A lot of people will say that character's definition is how you live when no one else is looking. Well, I want to say, and how does that compare to how you live when they are looking? Is it the same? Is it authentic, transparent? That first piece is what I just said, is authentic. The first dimension of good character or solid character, think good is a relative term, so we're going to use solid character, is authenticity, living an open life between what John Maxwell calls the lines of success and failure. Because we're on any road, we are on any journey, we are walking consistently between the lines of success and failure. And understanding where you are between those lines makes all the difference. I learned from John Maxwell just this week. He did a special Zoom call for Live to Lead. And if you are, I don't think you'll get this on Leader Pass. You might, but for sure you'll get it at Live to Lead in Charlottesville or any other live or private events that I do. He talked about this loop of test, fail, learn, re-enter. It's kind of this life cycle of growth and of testing and doing new things. Because when he recorded his first module for what we're doing for Live to Lead, because it's virtual speakers and live speakers, when he recorded his first one, he got some feedback, and feedback from those of us who are actually putting these, taking these things out into the world. And he said, I realized I didn't meet the mark and I failed. And so I'm coming in here to redo this. And oh my goodness, did he bring some amazing, amazing stuff on abundant mindset. That's something that people talk about all the time, but it just, it's another one that gives me cold chills. It's really, really good. But when we are willing, and he used this, he said, we tested, we failed, we learned, and now we're re-entering and we're starting over. We're going to make it right. This is how we learn. And when we allow others to see it, they see us living with authenticity. So for those of us who are Live to Lead license holders or Maxwell Leadership Certified Team speaker trainer coaches, to see our mentor doing this very thing is extremely encouraging. It helps us live that way as well. The second dimension of solid character is self-management. This shouldn't be a surprise. It's not what you, and this is what I say to people, it's not what you do that makes you an impactful leader, but who you are. It's understanding your own core values and how to honor them. It's understanding the principles by which you want to live, which is for me, lead, I guess, and live, which for me is intentional optimism. It's understanding what you believe and why you believe it, how you got there, and then how you manage all of it. That self-management piece. You may be the most difficult person to lead in your life every single day. You cannot lead other people if you're not willing to do that work yourself. So if you're not willing to lead yourself in these areas, then you're going to have a problem leading other people. One of the speakers that is included in the Leader Pass, Chris Robinson, tells a story about a salesperson who really wanted on his team because people on his team were kind of known for being promoted. And this guy got on there, but it got into Chris's team, but it didn't quite work out the way he expected. And it was all because of this gentleman's inability to self-manage and his wrong priorities and a desire to be kind of top rather than to serve. And so it really will come back to haunt you. You're going to get, this is one of the things that'll kill you in your character, your own self-management. You blow up at somebody, you don't take care of things, you don't understand your core values, therefore you're always in compromise mode. You let your principles get overrun. You don't examine what your beliefs are and why you believe them. And so you do and say things that are probably harmful to other people. I've been in all of those examples are from my life. Okay. So I know what that's like. Self-management is extremely important. The third dimension of solid character is humility. And this is giving yourself grace and understanding that you're not perfect. You're not ever going to be perfect. It just won't happen. You're human. You have, you do, and you will make mistakes. You have made mistakes. You make mistakes today, and you're going to make mistakes tomorrow. And this, I just want to be clear, this isn't a doubt of your value or power. It's a curiosity over where that value and power come from, knowing that you truly didn't make yourself. Because I'm here to tell you there are no such things, and there is no such thing as a self-made person. Period. If you want to argue that, I'm happy to do so. But there is no such thing as a self-made person. We all get where we get based on the relationships we have with other people. Other people pour into us. I might be the only person pulling a salary from my job, but I would not be here without lots of other people. That's just the way it works. Humility reminds us that We did not make ourselves, and we are curious about where that power and that value come from. We have inherent value, we have inherent power, but we also have the value to the community and the people that we work with. The fourth dimension of solid character is courage, and I just love this one. Courage, this is what makes character possible. You cannot be authentic without courage. You cannot dive into self-management without courage. You cannot give yourself grace without courage. This is that whole test, fail, learn, re-enter cycle. You need to understand who you are and embrace you. You need to give yourself the grace to actually make those mistakes and move forward. This is just right in the intentional optimism tenet of courage. And that particular tenet is made up of 3 pieces of leadership, adventure, and resiliency. And I just love that that's where it all kind of falls together. This is why I love teaching this book to people, because it so aligns with everything that I already teach. And I'm excited to share this with you. So as we kind of wrap up today, when you understand the definition of leadership as influence, you know what you're getting yourself into as a leader. When you understand the key to leadership as priorities, you know where you need to start to get anything done, or to keep going and to be sustainable. And when you understand that the foundation of leadership is character, you know the work you need to do daily to become an impactful leader who is in it for the long haul. This is a long game. I have to tell myself that daily. If anybody has a shortcut for you, run. Run far and run fast. I'm curious though, how will you use this information in your life today? When you look at those 5 levels of leadership, where do you stand? Where do you land? And it may be, like I said earlier, in a different level, in a different area of your life. Where are you a positional leader? Where are you saying people have to follow me because, or people have to follow me? It's like, I'm the leader, you have to follow me. What's funny is a funny example of how this doesn't work. Well, actually, let me give it to you in the next one. Are you a permission leader, meaning people follow because they want to? And now I'll share it. We have Apple Plus TV, and there is a show on there called Time Bandits, and it's got Lisa Kudrow in it. It is made by the Monty Python people, so it is quite tongue-in-cheek. I call most of it dad jokes, but my son and my husband literally guffaw on the couch. It is made for children, so it's not quite as crass or irreverent as Monty Python normally is, but it's made by the same people. And Lisa Kudrow is hysterical. And she is the, quote, de facto leader of all these time bandits, of this little group of time bandits. And she is consistently saying, well, no, I'm not really the leader. We are egalitarian here. We all make decisions together. And then she'll say, but you go there and you go there and you hurry up, right? So there is this aspect to permission, people following you because they want to, but you need to understand. She clearly doesn't understand what her true leadership level is. It might be way higher than she expects if she would just own it with some humility, but that's the whole point. Is it's a shtick and it's quite funny, but that's a good example of permission. People follow her because they want to, right? The third level, do you fall here, is production. Are you quite the producer? Do people follow you, your example, in the way you do the work that you do? Do they want your templates for things? Do they want your policy for something? Are they mimicking the way you do things? That's all good and fine. But if they've only promoted you because of what you've done for the organization into a leadership position, you might want to look at that. And you might want to say, how can I actually up level to a different level from just production? Because this is only going to get me so far. Are you a people developer like me? This is where I naturally land. I just absolutely love it. And people follow because of what they've done for them. When people ask me, what do you want your legacy to be, Andrea? I say, well, I want people to say, she helped me get here, or she encouraged me to go there, or she poured into me and was able to get me here. And I have had innumerable people do that for me, and I know how valuable it is, and I want to be able to do that moving forward as well. And so are you in that people development stage? Are you at that level of leadership in any area of your life? And do you want, and can you, the pinnacle level? Can you get to a place where people follow because of who you are and what you represent? Do you represent good character? Do you represent somebody who understands priorities? And we're going to look at some other principles in the next 3 episodes, but these are all things that people can look to you for. And they can say, all right, this person is doing what I want to do, but they're doing it in a way I want to do it, and they're doing it in authentic way and good solid character. Are you that person? Having clear priorities will help you move up levels, I promise. Having solid character will help you move up the levels, I promise. But it's daily work. Now, if you want to be someone that others follow because of who you are and what you represent, that pinnacle level, you have to put in the work. Again, this is Live to Lead season. This is a perfect opportunity for you to get in and start learning from people who already are doing this. In the area, join me. There might be a couple others if you stay tuned and pay attention. The link is in the show notes. Or if you're not in the area or you're not going to be available on the 18th of October, get your online leader pass, because then as soon as that is available, I believe October 4th maybe, you can have access to all of it. I want to hear from you because I want to know how this hits you and where maybe you fall on the 5 levels of leadership. DM me on Instagram or LinkedIn. Email me at Andrea@theintentionaloptimist.com or respond to my newsletter. Or if you're on YouTube watching me here, you've seen all the little silly guffaws that I've foibled through. Like and subscribe, because this is as authentic as it gets. When you're listening to the audio version, my producer is pretty good about pulling out some of the things that I mess up on. But usually with the YouTube, it's usually as straight as it gets. I rarely do an edit. I might if somebody has to stop me in the middle. So you're getting authentic here. Follow and like. And then if you're on a podcast app, hit follow there and share it with others so that they can know about it. Because it's time to stand tall and own it, y'all. It is time to stand tall and own who you are as a leader. Now, if you don't follow, you might not get the next episode. The next episode in our leadership series is all about communication. I personally believe it's the number one responsibility of a leader. How about you? I can't wait to share it with you. Until next time.